Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and I hope your 2025 has gotten off to a really great start. So over the holidays, looking over a bunch of emails, got a little catching up to do, so I apologize if I haven't gotten back to everyone. You gotta love the thing, 3-page diatribes and one little simple question. But I love this simple question. Mike, I can't trade profitably. Can you help? Yeah, sure. Sure, no problem. Okay, so before we get started, if you like any of our content, please let us know in the comments. Click the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and it just helps the whole channel and the algorithm out. So it's a very simple question. I can't trade profitably. What do I do? I love this sort of genericness of it, but really it comes down to a few things, and let's kind of break them down to see maybe one of them hits a nerve, or maybe hits you over the head with a hammer. And that's kind of my job here at the Desire to Trade channel, and we do this with our members all the time. Is kind of sort of break that glass, say, what are we looking at? Well, let's start with the basics, all right? When you go to a, say, car manufacturing plant, you're working at a car plant, you don't just sit there having coffee and, watching cars being built, right? You have to do something, right? There's a process, there's something to do. And I think what happens with traders is it's the job description. It's all flawed. So let's start with number one. Do your job. Do your job as a trader. And what is that? 80% of the things that we do, it doesn't involve clicking the mouse, right? It doesn't even involve watching charts, to be honest. It starts with the core basics. So if you're not profitable, ask yourself this question directly and bluntly, and I'll ask it for you. Do you have a trading plan? Do you have a development plan? Do you keep a journal of your trades? These are core foundational metrics that we measure and we monitor and say, hey, do you have that? When we have one-on-one calls, the first thing we ask for, provide me with your journal, provide me with your trading plan, because I want to know who I'm talking to, what their goals are, what their objectives are. If they're doing X and their goals are Y, I have a better understanding. But if they don't have the plan, I have no clue if it's right or wrong. All right. When I ask for a trading plan or a trade journal with some of my, either members or non-members or, outside community, if I do some outside, consulting, 60% of the time, I don't get a response. So step one is do your job as a trader, okay? Get those things in place. And that will also include your SWOT assessment, identifying your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's not just for your coach. It's for yourself to assess where I need to work on, where I need to focus on. So if you're not profitable and it's a clear metric, large sample size delineation, those who do this work tend to be more profitable, or they get to profitability quicker, all right? And more consistently, by the way. So let's get this sort of framework. You want to manufacture a car, let's get the rivets in the hand, okay? Let's start with that. Get that over with. Let's not even go to step two before we get those done first, okay? Fair enough? Let's go to number two. Okay, and the reason why I'm, kind of a stickler with number one is because of the next one, all right? We want to identify what the root causes are for some of the reasons why you're not profitable. There's in this journey, in any type of success journey, there's these immobilizers, all right? It's sort of like you're on one side of the river and the gold is on the other side of the river, and you have to find that bridge that's going to get you over there. We all do it. I've been doing this 20 plus years, and I still have immobilizers. So the question is, what makes it different? I don't do anything really much different. I identify them and put a plan in place to address them. So the next step, want to be profitable, is you have to identify those areas where it's becoming an obstacle in your profitability. Okay. Where do you get those? The things we just talked about, right? The journal, the trading plan, things like that. So kind of sounds a little simple, but again, it's really getting your hands dirty and your identification process. Remember, you can't really manage anything if you don't identify it in the first place. So step two, identify these demons that are getting in your way. Okay, so next. So this trader says, I'm not profitable yet. We're going to make an assumption that he's trying, whether it's not being successful or not being consistent, but he's not just, like sitting there looking at a screen. He's actually attempting, whether it's in demo, whatever. What I really want to find out, or what I want the trader to do, is to identify what has happened. What are the results when you did your back test? And that could be just a raw back test. You traded live. Maybe you got the strategy from another trader and you saw their results, whatever the case may be, and then compare them to what you're doing. What I want to see is looking at particularly the profit factor. All right, because that's going to really open the eyes up to a lot of doors, whether it's the risk side, whether it's taking profits too early, whatever may be the case. Maybe even win-loss, although I don't even track that anymore. All right, I really want to get into that profit factor and say, what is the difference? And want to find the root cause of that difference. Because if you have something that, in theory, historically is working for you or someone or a back test, what's getting in the way of you not having those results? So that's something you want to do a deep dive in. That would be number 3, identifying the root cause in the differential in profit factors with your strategy. All right, next, number 4. We're going to go back to number 1 again. That's that sneaky old trade journal. Okay, this is why we want to track these things. We want to do some analytics in your journal to say, was there anything that you deviated from the plan? Again, in step 1, right? Having that trading plan that maybe is coming to light in your actual trading. That may be the analytics part. I want to find out, are you changing your style in trading after a loss or after a series of losses? Or do you upsize too big after losses, or even maybe too much after a series of wins? Maybe it's overconfidence. I want to find the little nuances that are going on in the data inside that journal to find out, are you deviating from your trading plan? I'm a stickler for this. My members hear it all the time about trade compliance. But really, I want to take a deep dive and say, okay, if you got all these things lined up, and number 2 and number 3, we've done those parts of identifying and kind of assessing root cause. Now I really want to get our hands dirty and say, is there something you're doing behind the scenes that maybe you don't even realize that we have to bring to the surface? Maybe you're not following your plan as effectively or consistently as it should be. You're letting some of those emotions getting involved, particularly after a series of wins and or losses. All right, let's do a deep dive into that. That will help you identify things that will get you more consistent, and consistency and compliance will lead to profitability. See where we're kind of going here? All right, number 5. I want to take a look at your equity curve. And don't worry, if it's obviously a question like this, it's not going to be that rosy. You understand that. But I'm looking for sort of several different patterns, but I'm looking to kind of bring out a feeling of the type of root cause through the equity curve. And I'll show you 2 examples here. That is your basic core examples we see a lot of traders do in their development. The first one, you got that kind of step, win, step, crash, step, higher, crash, right? That tells me a lot about risk management, tells me a lot about sizing, tells me a lot about maybe chasing sort of overconfidence, maybe even after a down day, you have that sort of slightly down crash, right? That tells me a lot from on the emotional side of your trading activity. Also, I could pick it up probably in the trade journal. So this will sort of validate that. That's one thing I'm looking for as far as patterns. The other one is just that sort of muddling in the river, kind of thing, where it's just not profitable, but you're just kind of hanging in there, maybe drifting lower, or maybe I made a few mistakes and it popped up. You're kind of like, flatlining. That's actually a good thing because it tells me some things, core things about you. It tells me about your risk management. It tells me that maybe you're keeping your size in check, or if whatever size you're using, it's not really bothering you as far as an emotional element. So we could eliminate that. All right. Once we get those things and we'll identify some of the areas in the root cause of the sort of flatlining, now may be a question in this example of more of like, hey, is this strategy for you? Or, maybe the strategy just doesn't have historical, back tested, profit factor. I want to kind of go in more in that direction. All right. So these are some of the things that you want to do, and you don't need a coach to do this. You can just kind of do this on your own if you prefer. Okay. So these are the 2 high examples. There's other patterns I look for, but those patterns in these equity curves tell a lot about the person and the trader. Okay. Next, and this is where I sort of keep it real as a coach. I want to ask yourself, and this person really never explained, where they are in the development stage of their career, but you want to ask yourself, what stage are you in your development? I mean, if you're a new trader that just sort of made a New Year's resolution and you're going to start trading as a side hustle and you're not profitable yet, I'm going to approach that a little differently, right? And the trader self should approach it a little different. Like, maybe there's just a voyage of discovery that you're going through, and you're going to have those sort of, I'm not profitable yet. And I love entrepreneurs who, want to be profitable in the first day, but this business, there's a lot of, hand holding and learning, and you learn by sort of, putting your hand on the hot stove. So if you're early in your development, I'm going to approach that a little differently. Maybe there's a voyage of discovery. Maybe there's, maybe that strategy just isn't right for you. Or, maybe you're more of a swing trader and you're trying to scalp, and maybe you're working a full-time job and you need to be watching 5-minute charts. There's a lot of things going on there. We want to sort of dissect that. Now, if you've been doing this 3 or 4 years, all right, and the things that aren't happening. And that happens sometimes. I mean, it's some of the best traders have taken 3, 4, 5 years to kind of get profitable. Well, if that's the case, we really want to do a deep dive, more focused on the analytics, the psychology of things. What are those barriers, or getting in your way? There's definitely have to be something. Maybe it's just a frustration that's just overtaking it. Is that something that you're maybe going through? All right, it's very normal and very real. But if it's happening on maybe this year 3 or 4, maybe in year 5, even maybe year 2 if you're aggressive, it's something where you've got sort of those weeds out of the way, but it's still not happening. That's where we want to really drill down and say, is there something emotional here? I want to start going Jared Tendler on you and everything. Let's find out, is there some of the emotional stuff, baggage that we can kind of unveil? Or again, maybe it's just the core stuff. You just, the strategy is not for you and anything like that. Maybe you've been hopping for 2, 3 years and now, you kind of need someone to sort of get your act together and kind of get you on the right track. Okay. So there's kind of 2 different approaches. There's a fork in the road. Are you a new developing trader? And we want to kind of start, getting sort of your weaknesses, addressed and, building your strengths? Or is it the question of, I've just been doing this too long and it's just sometimes you get into this like cloud, this fog, when a plane goes in the middle of a cloud, you just can't see anything. And it's very frustrating time. There's, maybe potential talk about quitting. This is where it takes more of an aggressive stance. And quite honestly, I really don't want you to do it alone, especially if you're in that thing where, that kind of space, that valley of disappointment where, we got to do something and relatively quick. I'm sure there's a lot of people banging on your door saying, hey, honey, let's get going with this trading thing, right? So we want to take 2 different approaches, identify what that is, what stage in your developmental career you're in, so we can address that. All right, so I hope you got some insight into these 5 hacks, and I even threw a bonus one in there as well, that, if you're not profitable, it's okay. We can address it now. That's why we're doing this video, all right? Address it. And even if you are profitable, then you seem to go into that sort of red area and go back and forth, and you're just not consistent, at least to the point where you want to be. Take a look at these 5. Let me know which ones resonated with you. Let me know which ones didn't. This is a journey, and we understand it's a very frustrating journey at times. All right, I've been doing this for a while, and I still get frustrated. All right, the market seems to always, let her know who the boss is in the family, and sometimes I forget about that, and I pay the price usually. So take a look at these 6 hacks. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know which ones resonate with you. Let me know which ones sort of hit a nerve. I tried to throw a couple jabs there and to see which ones maybe hit you. Don't take any offense to me. I'm just trying to help. All right. I'll even go one step further. Click on the link below. All right. I'll do an assessment of my own personal demons, my own personal weakness that I was working on. And again, I went sort of Jared Tendler on this. I went through his process, and I'll walk you through it step by step. I'll give you the PDF as well to give you in some insight of how to, at least I've identified it, step 2, and how I addressed it, step 3. All right. Take a look at it. Hope it resonates with you. And most importantly, have a great start to the new year. All right. We'll talk to you soon.